So, hey, I'm here with Trey from the band Entertainment, one of the hardest bands to find Googling. I have tried.
Right.
Thanks. Who I was introduced to by a longtime pal of Movement Magazine, Tommy Salmon, who was in the band Trinket, which we featured in the 90s when we first started almost. And then he called me up one day and said, quite aptly, you're gonna love this band. I'm in this new band. I mean, you gotta hear them. So you gotta check it out. And so that's how I got to meet everybody. And thankfully, I'm still know you guys. I've seen you guys a few times. So I want to get you on here and catch everybody up with what's been happening. Um, so how did you? Let's just do a little some cliff notes, some brief cliff notes. Like how did you meet Tommy? How did all that happen?
So I moved down to Atlanta from Baltimore. I was living in Maryland and in Baltimore, and I used to go to like a lot of goth nights and stuff up there. I came down here, and then I was in Atlanta for a little bit. I wasn't super crazy about it, so I moved out to Athens, and there was a club there called Go Bar, which was kind of the place that we would party all night. They would play like a mixture of post punk, goth, glam rock, and then modern pop, all mixed together. It was where all the guys kind of went that wore makeup, and the girls would all be like super dressed up to the nines and everything. It was not the typical UGA bar, you know. I think I don't know if you're familiar with it, but Michael Stipe also co-owned it, so it kind of was where the artsy people, got together in Athens. And so Tommy performed in a Bauhaus cover band at that bar on Halloween one night. And we had been, yeah, I know. And well, I was shocked because I was like, of all the places to run into a Bauhaus cover band, I wasn't super familiar with Athens yet. So I didn't quite understand the vibe of Athens. And
It's a real mixed bag up there.
yeah, and I should have known better. If I had known Athens better at the time, I would not have been as surprised. But they were really, really good, and I thought, like, who is this guy playing bass, right? Because we had, played a little bit in Atlanta. We had a few people that would come and go and collaborate with us. We had done, I think, one, maybe, yeah, we had done at least one Drop Dead festival, I think, in New York when those were going on. And like I said, I'd gotten fed up with Atlanta. I moved out there and had to kind of reform the band, except for Barry, who was still playing drums.
Right.
And so I thought, all the way out here in Athens, Georgia, like who's this guy playing bass in the Bauhaus cover band? And so, I'm pretty introverted, so I didn't really talk to him at the time. My girlfriend at the time went up. She's like, I'll talk to him. I'll find out who he is. And so she talked to him, and I was like, hey, I'm in this band. This is kind of what we do. Do you want to come play with us? And he was totally open for it. So that's how we met him. And many, many tours later, I mean, we drove around the country quite a bit together, got to know each other really well. And he was a huge asset. Like it was just sort of fate to run into him that night. So.
Yeah, he's just a deep well of musical knowledge too.
Oh,
Just
he taught me so much. I mean, I've always been really DIY because I was a little skate punk, when I was a teenager, and I was always very like anti everything. And I would, I mean, I didn't even know. I think I knew like maybe the notes of the open strings on a bass guitar because I had started playing bass, which is why seeing another bass player that I was really into was pretty intriguing to me because I usually judge bass players pretty harshly. So it was just like, okay, EADG, that's all I knew, and that's all I was ever going to learn, and everything else I just did by ear. Working with Tommy really taught me a lot. I know initially, I think he used to get so frustrated with us because we were so sort of, just kind of just go at it with, passion and energy and but no real learned skill. It was all just like, let's write these songs and let's make this noise. I was really into a lot of avant-garde stuff. And, I unknowingly being into sort of the earlier punk bands like Wire and then Virgin Prune, stuff like that. I thought, oh, you just can make, and like Birthday Party, you could just make this aggressive, weird noise and you don't really have to know how to do it stupidly, not realizing that these guys really knew what they were doing. So yeah, so he, he really taught us a lot coming into the band and bringing all of the experience and talent that he brought.
And did you guys did, was that your first album that you did together, or did you have albums before that? Music?
No, we had two singles before that, which we had just gone in and recorded basically on our own. And then we were in the middle of working on Gender when he joined. Some of it had been tracked already. He came in and put his spin on some of it. And then we also had a guitar player that we worked out with in Athens. Well, we had two actually that worked on that record. Shane Davis worked a little bit on that with us, and then Chisholm Thompson, he was in Misfortune 500 at the time. He's in Feather Trade now. Cut some guitar on the record, and then Tommy sort of came in and touched up some of the bass work that was on there.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
How'd that release go for you as far as a total impression of how it, other than being critically acclaimed?
What was well, I could say creating it was difficult for us again because of how raw we were. I mean, it was seriously just like, let's make a record and forcing it into existence. We had a producer, Chris Sampson, that we worked with here, who helped us a little bit, and he also helped us a little bit with the new material that we're putting out. But we didn't have massive funding. We didn't have even really an idea of what we were or who we were in the grand scheme of the indie rock scene in Georgia, but also just in the country. The death rock revival hadn't really made its way here yet. And when I look at that revival that happened at the time around Gender coming out, we were on the much more like kind of dour, serious post-punk side of it. We were not on the, Death Hawk, Fishnet, Johnny Slut, Specimen,
Right.
kind of side of it. I love that stuff though, and I love that aesthetic. But we were just a little more, I guess. I don't want to say serious because it sounds pretentious, but it was the humor side of it wasn't necessarily there for us. But it was kind of difficult to create. Tommy coming in really helped us put it into focus a lot, especially playing it live because it became so powerful live. And when we finished it, it was a strange thing. We put a lot of magic into it. There was a lot of sort of impractical magic, being done to create this thing, willing it into existence. It came out. We didn't know what to think of it. I think half the band was very what do I want to say? Not that they disliked it, but concerned, right? Like, what did we create here? And it came out and it got really acclaimed. It's still this super underground thing, but to this day, like right before the pandemic, when Drab Majesty played here, I got contacted by a friend of mine in LA that said they want to meet you. They want you to come to their show. They heard Gender in LA, which we used to play LA a lot. And they heard it. They heard Flesh in a bar in LA and shared it on their social media. My friend said, that's my really good friend's band in Georgia. So, we got the call. I got in touch with them and we went to the show and we hung out with them all night. And I was just thinking, this is bizarre. It's been 10 years. Like, this album should not still be gaining momentum or getting attention from people who are, far more successful than we are at this point. So we had no idea what we made, and but we were very proud of it, and we worked really hard behind it, and we're happy it's there. But at the time, it was this weird magical thing that we didn't think we could control.
And it had some great cover art, but didn't it get you into a little bit of trouble with the cover art? Tell me about that.
Yeah, we can't share it on social. Like, we're the worst, for modern marketing. You can't Google us to save your life. Googling anything that we put out, either as far as singles like Entertainment Flesh, Entertainment Gender, our new singer is called Voyeur. Don't try to Google any of that stuff. It's not like what you're looking for. But the cover art, when we put it out, that was a local photographer in Athens. And I was looking to really I really wanted to make sure that the album was focused on where we were from, because also just being from the Atlanta, Athens area at the time, being 100% in Athens was very unique for the type of thing we were doing. There wasn't much Gothic type music that came out of Athens. I mean, the early REM stuff, they, toyed around with it. I know that they cross paths with Bauhaus a little bit, and obviously the B-52 is not even close to being Gothic, but a fantastic new wave band. So there's a lot of good music that came out of there, but there wasn't much Gothy type stuff. So I wanted to keep it very centric to where we're from. And I looked for a local artist to do the cover art, and happened upon that photograph. She was a local Athens photographer that took the picture, reached out to her and said, "Can we use this for our cover? Just, you don't know who we are, but are you okay with us licensing this?" We're not even licensing it, really, just using it. And she said, "Yeah, that'd be great." And then disappeared. I got a copy of the photo, a digital copy of the photo, and then seriously disappeared. I didn't find her for years. It wasn't until we were playing with Ash Code recently during Dragon Con, she came to our show. And she was like, "Hey, how's it going?" I was like, "Great," and didn't recognize her. And she's like, "That's my photo." And I was like, "What?" And she was like, "Yeah, I'm Heather. I haven't seen her in years. Like, I mean, literally 10 years."
Was that the Drunken Unicorn show that I was at?
Yeah, that was a Drunken Unicorn show.
Oh, wow, that's great.
It was crazy. And I was so happy to touch base with her, because I was like, "I've been looking for you forever. Do you know what this image has done for us?" And so anyway, that particular photo, it was fine for a long time. It got a great response. I remember sending it out for press, and people say, "This is either really, really cool, or this is one of the most horrific things I've ever seen," just because of how, I guess, not aggressive, but how like in your face that image is. I thought it encapsulated the album and the sound of the album perfectly. But for some reason, a couple years ago, I guess Facebook started clamping down on things, and they kept pinging us and saying, "You're sharing inappropriate content." And I was thinking, there's nothing, we're not sharing anything. I went through all of our socials, made sure the cover was not actually on any of it, and kept getting pinged. And then they shut down our page, like completely deleted it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and I have been able to share it every once in a while on Instagram, if I hide it in a slideshow, but anytime I try to put anything up on Facebook that pings back to that image, I'll get put in jail, basically, and it gets shut down. So yeah, it's been fun. We're masters at digital marketing. So,
Digital controversy.
yeah, it keeps us super, underground. I mean, it's like you can't get more rare than gender, because you can't find it anywhere. But
So from there, how has the band been since the pandemic hit? Or actually, like beforehand, you said you were touring. Like, how far out did you go? Like, how far have you taken the band?
well, we toured for probably 2 years behind gender. At the time, again, we just didn't know what to do. Honestly, there was not a lot of local support for what we were doing. This area didn't quite get it. That was around the time of like the Coat Hangers coming up and Black Lips coming up in Atlanta. It was a very different scene. It was more that garage rock revival thing that was going on. We, of course, would come on stage in like our black outfits and makeup and stuff, and that was not the thing that was happening in this area. Now in Athens it was different. Like we had a core friend group that was super supportive. We got to open for Silver Apples there. Gosh, who else did we play with there? A really, really diverse group of bands. A lot of the Third or Hungry Eye Records bands would come through, and we would play with them there. But we just started leaving here and going up to New York. We'd go to Chicago. Sarah booked us up there once, and we had a fantastic show, playing up there. And then we would do the West Coast a lot. And then we would sort of do stuff in between. We did South by Southwest a couple years. We were really good friends with the Prids, and they helped us get on Luminal Records. So we would play shows with them whenever they would come to town. And then, of course, we would come down and see you guys every once in a while, which was always a lot of fun. But yeah, it was mainly just the States. We never got to go over to Europe. It just didn't happen for us because we had, after doing 2 years behind Gender, Tommy really got burned out, and he actually ended up leaving the band. And then we spent a couple years just trying to figure out how to make it work. I moved back to Atlanta because I felt like Athens was, although I love Athens, and we still kind of claim that as our home base, there was a point where I didn't feel like I could grow the band there just for sheer lack of finding people that would want to play with us. So I came back to Atlanta where there was a more diverse pool of musicians, and worked with various bass players. We found Jim when I came back, who still plays synth for us. So really just all around the States for 2 years, we were touring and playing, and unfortunately never got to make it out over to Europe, which we're hopefully doing once the travel restrictions and stuff lift.
Right. So since COVID hit, how's what's been happening with the band and album work, new stuff?
Yeah, COVID's been a blessing and a curse for us. As we were trying to figure out what to do after Gender, we did get picked up by DeSarro Records, who is the label that pretty much brought Witch House to the world, if you remember that whole scene. We got picked up by DeSarro, and we actually recorded an album for them. This was obviously like far pre-pandemic, which got shelved. They actually went under before the album came out. And that really hit me kind of hard. I got very disillusioned and unsure of what we should be doing. I didn't feel, the sort of external validation of what we were doing. And I felt kind of trapped in Atlanta. Like, where do we go from here? So for a number of years, we just sort of tried to make it work, doing a couple shows a year. We were recording new music, revamping some of the stuff we did for DeSarro, but it was just kind of like slowly moving along. Then we got picked up or got asked to open for Modern English on the Southeast legs of their Mesh and Lace tour.
Right.
And that kind of restarted the band for us in a way, because suddenly there was that, like, again, why are we being asked to do this? Why? I don't understand. It's been years since we released new music, but it's still picking up momentum. So there was a bass player here in town who used to DJ goth nights with me, and we went out with her on that tour. That was really, really cool. We ended up playing 2 sold out shows in one day at the Earl here in Atlanta, which had never been done before. Obviously not because of us, but because we're with Modern English. But we're playing in front of our hometown crowd. And I remember getting off stage and people talking to me, and they're like, "Oh, so what part of England are you guys from?" And I was like, we're not, we're from here, And then we started getting recognized around town a little bit more, which was funny when we would go out to shows after that. Then we went out with them again the next year, and we picked up a different bass player who worked with us on crafting the new material. And that really got us, moving a little bit more. But we've always been a live band, and anyone who's seen us live, it's an interesting experience. It's always like we either completely sell it and destroy the stage, or people just walk away going, "What just happened to me?" I don't understand what I just saw. So we really focus on the live experience to the detriment of recording new material. And I've always been a big proponent of being on a label. As DIY as we were in our approach to making music, I always stubbornly feel like it's important to have label representation. So we were always sort of looking, trying to find the right label for us. And the indie goth scene that's really big now was not really happening, for a number of years, especially in the Southeast. So when you look at like Deus, or you look at like Artifact Records, there's a bunch of records labels in Europe that are sort of catering to this kind of indie goth scene. We were stuck in the in-between years of that sort of bubbling up. So we were just doing live stuff looking for labels. The pandemic hit, and right before that, we were about to do a show with Zymox here at the Masquerade. And then we were going to go out with Modern English again in the summer. And then everything shut down. Literally the day before our show at the Masquerade with Zymox. Zymox canceled the tour, everything shut down. They flew back to Europe, and it was bad. So the reason that the pandemic has been a blessing and a curse is because it forced us to sit down and finish recording and finish, these tracks. So last year we started releasing a few things. We released the single for Maggot Church, and we released the single for Voyeur, and then we got remixes by a few of our friends. Delphine Coma did a remix for us. We got Matt McJunkins, who plays in Poppy and has also played in A Perfect Circle. And what is the other Tool side project? I always forget. Oh, Pucifer. And has also played with Eagles of Death Metal. He did a really, really awesome remix for us. Right before the pandemic, I guess during the Modern English tours, we hooked up with Tom Ashton in Athens, and he did a remix for us. So we've just, we were pretty lucky in that all of our friends kind of came to bat when the new material was coming out and put their spin on it. Right. So that's sort of why it was a blessing for us. But it forced us to shut down the whole live thing, which is going to be interesting how we get that back,
So what's the status of the music now? Close to an hour. I mean, where's the direction of it?
So we have the 2 singles out. I've really enjoyed getting remixes from other people and hearing how they interpret our music. We're putting our new songs out in as 2 small. Well, one is, we call them EPs. They're not. These days, you probably wouldn't call it that. The first one is 4 tracks. So Horror Part 1 is going to be coming out. And then we'll have another single come out, and then Horror Part 2, which is only 3 tracks. And that's the stuff that we've been working on since, we started touring with Modern English. Then after that, our plan is to go into the studio with Tom Ashton in Athens and rework some of the stuff to make it a little bit bigger. Again, we're so DIY. We recorded this stuff like partially in this concrete room that we were in. Some of it was done in our rehearsal space. Some of it was done in, in Barry's house. Just all different places, tracking and getting these things done. We had a few Tommy is actually on this record. Some of the stuff that he cut is on this record. We had Henry, who was our last bassist. He's on the record. So bits and pieces here and there, very, very put together, almost like an exquisite corpse, in a way where we're constantly revisiting and retracking. We did all the mixing on this. Tom Ashton has helped us with some of the mastering and lending his professional ear because I have a terrible ear for proper mixing. So he's been kind of helping us level set things. And then, so once that stuff is released, we're going to go in and sort of do, touch everything up, do it properly, as they say, and see where that takes us.
Excellent. Well, I look forward to hearing all of that and reporting on it. So the most important question, the most critical thing is, how do people find you online? Where can we send people to actually discover Entertainment the Band on Facebook and social media and the webs?
Yeah, I mean, we have a Facebook page, but I wouldn't worry about that too much because it's a little bit difficult to get a hold of us on Facebook. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on Bandcamp if you look for Entertainment Gender or Entertainment Official. You can find us there. All of our music is there. I'm getting a little more savvy with the digital marketing. So we're getting things a little more locked down across the web where you can, find us a little easier so that you don't go down this sort of rabbit hole.
Personally selling physical copies of the work or anything online yourselves? Or you guys have had some great t-shirts before as well. You have some merch that you've done for shows.
Yeah. We'll see about releasing some new t-shirts and stickers and pins and all that stuff. I feel like we missed out on the enamel pin craze, which I absolutely love, but we'll probably try to jump on that late to the bandwagon, you know.
Right on. Well, we'll be sure to cover all of that when it comes out, and I appreciate you doing the interview today with us.